Today in Matt's class, we are going to get cray-cray with full color pencils. Are you ready? So today we are going to use full color pencils on our Artagain paper. We've got our toned paper here. Now, if you've been following along with some of the videos I've been putting out, we had like the monotone sketches that are just the black and white color pencils on your tinted paper. And then we kind of started adding one color, two colors, three colors, and there's kind of different rules to what you're doing every time you add a new color. Those were all limited palettes and those were all fine and dandy. Now we are biting the bullet. We are really taking the leap and we are going full color on our tinted paper. So it's kind of an extension of the rules before, except now because we are going full color, there is a lot more ability to mix color, and we are going to be covering all of our paper. It's an awesome technique and I can't wait to share it with you. So the idea of working full color pencils is really cool because it's kind of like painting. It's not even kind of, it's absolutely like painting, and you are mixing your colors. The thing that's great about working with a technique that is full color pencils is that you can do this on the go. And I think the thing that I really love about full color pencils is you can just pick up and start at any moment. You can pause at any moment and then you can start back into it at any moment. You can't really do that with painting. One of the easier painting techniques for setup would be like watercolor, but again, watercolor isn't something you can just snap your fingers, sit down and, oh, look at this, I'm doing a watercolor painting. When you need to set up your watercolors, you need to get water, you need to kind of, get your brushes ready and kind of get everything into place. You might need to tape your watercolor block down. It takes a little bit of time. Something that would probably take even longer than that would be like oil painting, where some people actually stretch their own canvases. Even if you're buying store-bought canvases, there's just a lot of prep work and kind of getting ready just to paint before you can say, okay, got my brushes lined up, I got my colors all squeezed out, I got my turpentine ready. Here we go, right? Now you're finally ready. And then you can't just snap a finger and stop in the middle of your oil painting and say, oh, I'm gonna stop now until tomorrow. There's cleanup and you have to prep everything, and it takes time to do all of this. The great thing about color pencils, you really can work on the go. You can start drawing full color pencils immediately. And if you ever have 5 minutes here and there, if your friends aren't going to be ready to leave and you've got 5 minutes to kill, you can bust out your color pencils, you can start working on something shading, and then as soon as your friends say, all right, cool, we're ready to go, you grab your pencils, throw them in your backpack, and you are out the door. It is that easy. So working with color pencils, I think, is really, really cool. It's a great way to learn color. But enough yap, let's get to this. Come on. So the reference that I'm using today is this. I don't even know who this is. This is from GQ magazine, but this is Sophie Monk is who this is. This is a great reference, and I actually show this reference in the video for how to find the best photographic reference that you can use as an artist and some of the things that you want to be looking for, in particular with light and shadow. So if you haven't seen that video, you definitely should go check it out. This is one of the references that I talk about, and I thought it would be good to maybe just draw this since I had this laying around. Here we go. So I've had the opportunity to draw this on the Artagain paper. Before I actually go in and start rendering this, there's a couple things I want to point out that I did that you guys may want to take note of. One thing is that I completely changed the angle. This photo is kind of at this angle here, but I thought it was more interesting at this angle, and it's almost like she's looking up a little bit. Like this is a little more devil, this is a little more angel. I don't know why I think that, but doesn't this look a little nicer? Doesn't this look a little more like, oh, the sun's in my eyes, but hello? I have no idea if that's what this is gonna look like, but I just like this angle better for some reason. Also, when all is said and done, this piece may also, because I have it at this angle, this piece may also work like that. So it'll be interesting to see when all is said and done how this is going to pan out. Next thing that I did, very important, when you're mapping things out, what you don't want to do is just take a black Prismacolor pencil and outline everything everywhere. So I kind of drew this before in one of my earlier demos that you hopefully have seen on video, drawing with black and white color pencils. You don't want to just draw a line around the nose like this. you want to see where the edges are. And if you do see like this dark long shape, then of course you want to draw it. But sometimes people see this, they see a light shape on the cheek, a light highlight meeting up against a medium tone, which I just have the paper. So it's almost like you see the edge of the nose without me actually drawing a dark line. If I were to draw a dark line, it would kind of cartoon it like this. I don't want a cartoon. I want something that looks a little bit more realistic. So you need to kind of stop thinking about lines around everything and think more about shapes, think more about edges. So because I'm going full color and because I want this to be a little bit more photorealistic, I don't want to have all of these dark edges around everything. It's going to look like a color by number, and it's going to look almost like a stained glass kind of thing if I have like these lines separating everything. So a lot of times what artists will do when they do their initial drawing, anywhere that there are dark edges or dark shapes, yeah, go ahead and use a black color pencil. However, sometimes what artists will do, they will actually do the entire drawing or parts of the drawing like I did with a light brown pencil or a medium brown pencil. In this case, I used a terracotta for this kind of medium brown, and that way, no matter what I'm doing with blending or filling in the shapes, this is a nice medium brown that for some of these edges, it's not going to be too dark and it's not going to be too light. I can still see these edges clearly. It's going to help map things out. Then on top of that, I've seen a lot of artists that will do an initial sketch with something like orange because it's just kind of a medium color that they can see. You have to realize that if you do a drawing, something like this with a dark line, and then you've got this like over here, and you kind of do that, you have to understand if you're going to go in now and shade in skin tone, guess what? Oh no, you totally see where those dark lines are. And there's nothing you can do. You hammered in those dark lines. But if you take the time to draw something a little bit more, you know, with orange, something like that, and then you go in and shade in, look at that. That you don't notice as much. And you can kind of feather it in a little bit more. And you might even want to round out an area where maybe it does roll a little bit warm. You can feather it in a little bit more. Now I'm just playing. Now I'm just like totally having fun mixing my color pencils, and maybe it even moves over to an edge, rolling into like the shadow there. But you see how you can get these really cool, it's literally like an oil painting. It's this really waxy color pencil. As you've got all these multiple colors, you can, it's like you're painting right on the page. And again, you can start at any moment, you can pause at any moment. Your cleanup is just grabbing your stuff and throwing it in your backpack and leaving, and then just sitting down again to pick up where you left off. So it's a really, really great technique. A great way to really start understanding color and kind of playing with more full color rendering. So one of the things I like to start with, just like when I did the black and white monotone sketches, I especially like to start with any areas that are absolute black. And again, the reason why I do this when I paint as well, I like to get my darkest darks on there. I like to separate my contrast. That way, when I'm choosing my colors, I'm choosing values that are already closer to where they're supposed to go. By locking in those darkest darks first, it's just a little bit easier to see where I need to go from there. So once I sharpen this black color pencil, I'm going to begin with that. This dark eye over here, this one's really hard to see because it's already in shadow, so I'm gonna draw what I see. Over here she's got a light blue eye, so some people will make the mistake of, oh, well, I need to leave room because I know she's got a blue eye over here. Again, you can't draw what you know, you have to draw what you see. I don't see any blue over here, so I'm not gonna draw any blue over here. I don't want to draw a dark line here. I do have kind of a line drawn with this brown because I do see an edge, but that edge kind of separating the nose just kind of turns over into shadow a little bit, but that's not black. So I don't want to take my black pencil and carve this dark line here because it's not really that dark. It just kind of rolls into this little medium brown here. So I want to be careful not to go too much or it's instantly going to turn into a cartoon. I don't want a cartoon, I want a little bit more realism with this. A little bit more here. This is a connecting edge, by the way. We have if you look in real life, there's kind of a connecting edge here where it gets a little bit darker. There's a connecting edge right here. The fact that I know what connecting edges are, I see them, I'm gonna put them in. It's only gonna help me. All right, now this eye, anywhere where I see absolute black, I am hammering it in. Thickness of the lashes here. Now here I want to be careful. It looks like she's got a pretty light blue eye, and it does get a little dark around the side here. The pupil is absolute black. I feel like I want to draw more under there, but you know what? I don't see it that way. I feel like I know that it would be that way, but that's not what I see, and I'm going to draw what I see. Eyelashes here, and progressively they kind of get a little bit darker around the side here. And I kind of want to shade all this in, but it's not really black. It's like this kind of darker brown. There is a dark nostril here. What you don't want to do, a lot of times you want to be careful not to mix black in your skin tone. So where the skin starts to get darker, if you use black instead of a brown or instead of basically any other color, black is just going to make things muddy, and you're going to, as you start to mix with your skin tones, it's going to do this kind of thing where it just kind of gets this weird gray, and when you mix that into your skin tones, it looks awful. It starts to look like 5 o'clock shadow, or it looks like soot or dirt or a bruise or something like that. It's not going to do you any favor, so you want to try to be careful not to add black into that. But there are areas where you see absolute black, like right under the lip here. But I don't want to just draw a line across the lips like this here, or even if I draw the shape, I don't want to, you know, have this line like that. I do see it's a little bit darker in the middle under here, and then it gets a little bit darker right in the corner of the mouth here. But you see how I didn't just draw a line straight over, and already you can almost feel the lips pressing together. A little bit darker under here, not too much. I do see a nice edge separating her chin and jaw, connecting edge right here with this wife beater. See a little bit more of an edge here, so I'm gonna draw that out only because I see it. If I didn't see it, I wouldn't want to add too much. So these are my darkest darks. Now, because this is going to be full color, I don't have as much black on here as I would if I were doing a monotone sketch. So we could do the same thing with white, but I want to be real careful and selective because I want to really focus on areas that are either absolute white or pretty close to being absolute white. A little bit of light there, not much, and I do see a little bit of highlights right on the edge right here, and I'm going to be doing a lot of mixing, so this is just kind of mapping out, but I'm going to be going back and forth to really find where the values should go, and also steering the color into place. Highlight above the lip here, there's a nice highlight right under the nose, onto the upper mouth right here, like so. This lip is getting a little bit lighter towards the top. There is a nice little juicy highlight right there. A little bit of highlight on the chin, but this is all going to get mixed with skin tones. So I'm just kind of feathering this in lightly because this is just a base, and I'm going to be kind of going back and forth. This is a great reference because there's really good examples of hard cast shadows and soft form shadows. Those edges, that edge control between the hard and soft is really, really going to help us out. There's definitely kind of this absolute white that's going to get blasted right here where the white tank, this wife beater as they call them. Right here I don't see any detail. That is just straight up white. Because it's straight up white, this part's easy. Right here, it's straight up white. And that's going to help us. That's going to help us when we judge colors around it, because we already know this is straight up white. Let's go for broke and knock that in. Now, one thing I don't want to do, I definitely don't want to add in white color pencil to the white of the eye. Again, I know that this eye on this side over here, I know that she's got the whites of her eyes, and I can actually see them, but they're not absolute white. That is really dark. I may have to actually make it darker than I have it here, not lighter. I see a little bit of a highlight on this nail, a little bit of a highlight on this nail. I don't see a white highlight on this nail, even though I want there to be, but there's highlights on all the other nails, but if I don't see it, I can't draw it. I only should be drawing what I see. Next thing that I like to do, I like to kind of go back and forth a little bit with pushing the lights against the darks and the darks against the lights. So I'm anxious to put in some skin tone, but before I do that, I think I need to get a little more shadow in there. I'm going to use this medium brown, and in some places I'm going to need to go darker. In some places, I might actually need to add a little bit of reflected light. Eyebrow over here, and this rolls into shadow this whole area here. Right now, I'm not going to hammer this in too dark. I want to see where the colors are going to go, so I'm just kind of shading it in so I can kind of get the sense of the contrast difference. Do some shading under the lower lid here already, like, okay, that's cool. It's rolling into shadow a little bit more under the brow here. That's cool. It's really going to help. This whole area needs to darken up. I'm just going to start shading this in. There's some areas I can tell already where this shadow under the nose is going to need to go darker. As I add in more colors and as I mix the colors, it's going to be almost like I'm doing an oil painting, mixing color, waxy, right into place. But for now, I'm just kind of separating. Rounding out under the jaw here. And this is a start. I may go way more opaque with this color. Opaque meaning right now this is kind of transparent because I can actually see the color of the paper through the color pencil, so it's a little bit more crayon-like right now. Sometimes you don't really know for sure as you're putting these colors down until you put the next color down, or you put the next color down, or you put the next color down. Also, I want to be careful. I drew this line around here to separate this edge, but I didn't want to carve the line really dark because when I look here, I don't actually see a line, I see an edge. I see an edge where there's the light on the face and there's an edge where the shadow meets up against it. So I drew a line to separate that, but there is no line. It's dark and it's light and there's an edge in between. I drew that edge with a line, but I want to be careful because, again, if I would have taken a black color pencil and drawn that, it would be like taking this photograph and drawing a line on the face, and like no one has a line exactly where light meets shadow. That would look really weird. So you want to be careful when you're kind of mapping these things out. You want to kind of work a little bit lightly at first so you can kind of draw in those edges, but then you want to shade those edges appropriately. I'm going to want people to see this edge. I'm not going to want people to see this line. It's not only pushing value, a lot of it's going to be pushing color. And as you start to get more full color and you're trying to match what's in the photo, you start looking at color temperature. You start looking for things like purple. Do I see purple reflecting into the shadows? Do I see orange? So now that I have kind of my first area of shadows in here, I could go into more shadow material, but you know what? I kind of like going back and forth between working in the shadows a little bit and then working into the skin tones a little bit. And I'm just going to lightly start taking this peach color, this basic skin tone, and I'm going to start locking this in. First things last, let's get some of those areas that roll a little bit more. Kind of feather those in. Just a little bit darker on this side of the nose right here. The chin rolls into shadow here. Just a little bit darker skin tone. So at first it's going to look weird because I haven't put the lighter skin tone in yet. It's just this subtle, slightly darker shift right here. A little bit more under here with the jowls. It's not as bright here on the neck. It's a good skin tone, but it's not as bright, so I can go ahead and hammer this in. So now add this lighter color and kind of mesh this into there. And this is a lot bit lighter. I have a feeling I'm going to be kind of rendering a little bit back and forth on this, I think. So this is looking a little bit pasty, this lighter color here. I don't know that I'm quite feeling it. So what I need to do now, I need to go back and forth. I need to introduce a little bit more of this skin tone in here. There we go. Kind of pull that back into here. And I can still go back with my lighter peach and I can bring areas out a little bit brighter if I need to. Unlike the previous monotone sketches where we're almost using color pencils as more of like an indication of color and more like a suggestion of light and dark. Now we're doing the actual colors and we are really bringing our A game and just mixing right on the page. And already I can see by adding in this color, not only do I see kind of here and there where the skin tones need to be fixed, I can also see shadows, and where the shadows, I mean, I could kind of tell they needed to steer in one direction or another. Now they absolutely need to steer. This isn't as bright over here. I'll kind of pull that back in, and it's really waxy. So again, it's almost like oil paints where you're just kind of really digging into this strong paper and pulling it together one section at a time. Already this part of the eye is looking a lot better. The shadows need work, but each step of the way we are pushing and pulling closer and closer. It's getting there. It needs work, but it's getting there. I'm blending it a little more opaque, a little more waxy. I don't really want this gray color to be showing through because that would be weird with the skin tone. So that's kind of the cool thing about these color pencils is you can kind of be more transparent, and that works a lot better for the techniques that are a little bit more monotone, where you're utilizing the tone of the paper as one of your colors. But now that we're full color, it's pedal to the metal. The tone of the paper is nice because as you're kind of working through your valleys, you can kind of see, you can kind of play the colors against that middle value and your darks and lights and kind of see where things need to go. But otherwise, you don't really want that gray to show through. When you look closely, it almost muddies things up a little bit. But it helps us know as we're moving along where we need to steer things. In the shadows, dark umber. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to look at any shadows that go dark, and I'm going to darken them even more. The shadow here starts to get darker under the arm here. Getting a little bit more opaque as we go. A little bit darker under here. A little bit darker right under the lip here. And then there's this cast shadow right here. I like it. It's what I wanted for my birthday. So there's a couple areas in the shadows. I actually see almost like a little skin tone reflecting in there. Just a little bit, so I can maybe get a little waxy. Like right under the brow there, it gets just a little bit lighter. So I'm going to bounce a little bit of light and get a little more opaque with it so it isn't so crayon-like or color pencil-y. Almost like a little bit of orange. It's like a little bit more over there. Oh, here we go. This is where I started seeing. I may have gone a little too crazy orange, so I may pull that back a little bit. A little bit redder, so this terracotta is working perfect. It's got a little out of control, this oranginess here. I can go in and I can kind of hammer in this area here, and because I have these darks under here, now I can start to go a little more opaque with this shadow, but you're still going to see the darkness under here. I may need to go back in with the dark one again, but it's just kind of going back and forth. Underneath the nose here, definitely want to push. This goes darker here. There's actually a darker blue, it's almost like a gray, around the edge, and then put in the actual blue. And then I see a little bit, it's not like absolute white, but there's just like a little bit of texture, getting a little bit lighter there. This goes a little darker here, I have it a little too orangey. And then even this eyebrow, I think I have a little bit too dark. So I'm going to add some skin tone in there so it's a little bit lighter of an eyebrow, and already I think that helps. A little bit more color that we see kind of in the top here, rolling into that. This kind of rolls into shadow, and then it's a lot lighter, kind of where the highlight is. Now it's getting more and more apparent where are my trouble spots. So I can start to push and pull. I can start to look at things like highlights, and I feel like now this goes a little bit more into skin tone over here. That highlight was just pulled over a little too much. A lot of times you'll notice skin tones roll into orange before they turn over into shadow. So I can kind of start to look at areas like over here. Do I see a little bit more orange? I can infuse that into the cheek over there. Some subtle orange here. I don't want to go too crazy with it, but if I see it, might as well put it in. Chin rolls a little bit warmer, a little bit more orange over here. And again, I can, if it's ever too much, I can go back and just feather it back in with another color on top. And it's just this really cool technique of just kind of mixing Let's get some of those highlights back in there. I kind of see a little bit more of a sheen right here, a little bit more of a sheen kind of right where the brow starts to turn over. Definitely there's kind of like this hot spot on the ball of the nose, and then kind of this hot spot that kind of goes up here. There's a little bit more in the lips. This whole area under the nose here definitely goes lighter. So this is cool because it's waxy now. And it's like I'm blending oil paints, but they're already dry and I can mix into them at any time. Because it's super waxy, it's a little unpredictable, and this is the reason why now that you're working full color, the rules are kind of the same. You can mix colors, but ideally you want to try to get as close to them in color but also in value. So obviously a black and white color pencil you don't want to mix. A yellow, a light yellow, and a dark purple you don't want to mix because, man, that's just going to be crazy. But blending a light blue into a medium blue and then blending a medium blue into a darker blue, that's going to transition much, much nicer. It's going to be a lot easier to work with as you kind of move around your piece. Highlights right here, and look at that. This is already going to be helping this cheekbone. Now it's starting to blend. Pretty cool. Just going to help that side of the face just kind of roll into shadow a little bit easier. I'm probably going to take the skin tone and kind of go back into it just to help it transition a little bit nicer. Yeah, and just blend that right back in, and look at that jaw just turn right over right at the end there. So now I'm just adding some random color in here just to kind of show where you can kind of steer color. The focal point still being kind of the face here. Right now I'm just throwing in some edges just to kind of show in this grand scope of everything how all the pieces would fit. So honestly, at this point, I'm just playing. I'm just kind of throwing in color, seeing where it sticks, pushing and pulling, seeing where it needs to go. Every step of the way, now I see a little bit of reflected light coming in under the nose. So I'm going to take this peach color and add in just that. There we go. There's that reflected light. There it is. Back and forth as you steer the colors where they need to go. I see the lips maybe are a little too pink now. The lips could go almost a little bit more red. Maybe that's all we need, just a little bit of this. It'd still be warmer, but I'm digging this. Now it's a little too dark. You're right, I should have left it as is, but I can go back and blend it right back in, which is exactly what I'm going to do. It's going to take a little bit more time, where I feel like when you're rendering the monotone sketch with limited color, a lot more of it is just a suggestion, or it's just kind of an indication, where this, you're really trying to get the exact colors, the exact values. You can see already how this hand is pulling together. It's based simply on like those little highlights, just the little tucking into shadows, and just starting to throw in this color. And I'm not even hammering it in yet, just putting in this slight color. The hand is still a little bit too gray compared to how this is fully rendered, but I want to start off kind of lightly and make sure I'm building the color, really steering it where I want to go. What are the actual colors? When you're doing shadows, in this case, these shadows are kind of warm, and so they are closer to terracotta shadows. A lot of times in your photographic reference, if you look closely, you'll actually see cool colors. You'll actually see purples and lilacs in your shadows. You'll see blues reflecting from the sky in your shadows. So don't be afraid of that, and you want to use color that way. Draw what you see. And I know you're probably thinking when you see those shadows, people don't have purple in their face, their skin isn't purple. Don't think like that. Look at exactly what the color is and make that color, make it so, and you'll be a lot better off for it. There's more that I can do. I see stuff every step of the way, like I need to go darker here, I need to lighten up this. This is a little too brown. All right, I could play with this all day. Something like that. I'm seeing, you know what? I keep finding things. You know what? I think this eye over here, and then I promise I'm gonna let this go. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now the question is, does this look better this way, or does it look better this way? Like this is sunny afternoon having a picnic. This is sunny afternoon taking a nap.
Or that scene in Titanic.
Oh my gosh, you're right, James. She needs the blue ocean or whatever that's called. I don't know.
Heart of the ocean.
James, I can't decide what's better. Like this
Well,
is
I'll
really
give you-
cool.
well,
This is really cool.
What about the other direction? Oh, never mind. Nope, that's weird.
Your full color pencils. Locking it in, you're doing an oil painting with color pencils directly onto the page. This is a really fun technique, and there's just so many different ways that you can explore this using full color pencils. A lot of people love this. A lot of people learn full color pencils and they do this for their career. They never have to pay for paint, and they can do it on the go, on the fly, wherever they feel comfortable, working out of their home, doing incredible color pencil work. Hope you guys enjoyed this technique, and I can't wait to see what you guys do. Be good to one another. Wow. Did you enjoy class today? If so, give me a like. If there's something you'd like to see me cover in a future video, let me know what that is in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I've also got a video series called Sketchbook Challenge that helps your drawing, creativity, and fill up an awesome looking sketchbook. Plus, there are videos on You Can Draw Star Wars, Hollywood is Dead, and sneak peeks at the ALADDIN 3477 Motion Picture Trilogy. In order to not miss any new videos, hit that notification bell. Sharing is caring, and it's great to inspire your friends. Share this video on social media, and your friends will share awesome art tips they find with you. If you're on Instagram, you can follow me at Matt_Busch_Instagram. I'll see you back in the classroom soon. Don't be tardy.